got that ring on?
I just talked to her, what you need. What you need.
You got a problem?
That,
I know about that, we're talking about it.
We waiting on anybody, Mike? Or we?
Waiting on,
Us? Right.
yeah, waiting on you.
Come on in.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, we're live.
Go ahead.
Johnny,
All right, Gilbert.
Johnny, you come in, you were first ward, you were first ward.
And good morning. First of all, my name is Steve Haney, and I'm an attorney based out of the Detroit area, out of Southeast Michigan. I have offices around the state of Michigan. I'm here today. It's my honor and privilege to be here today to represent my client and a man I consider to be my friend, Eric Mays. I've been monitoring what's been going on in the city of Flint for several weeks now, and have reached a point where I'm very troubled. And I think the city of Flint should also be very troubled, as Mr. Mays and the folks he represents in the First Ward, 8,000 members of the First Ward, are being deprived of their voice at the city council meetings. As folks are aware, on March 4th, Mr. Mays was, what I believe, legally deprived of his right to sit in that city council seat, and we intend on taking action if necessary to get him back in that seat. I'm not here today to threaten. I'm not here to go to a bar and slap around a senior citizen. I'm not here today to post silly, immature messages on Facebook. I'm not here to say what streets I may come from or not come from. I'm here so that the 8,000 residents of the city of Flint will have their voice back on the city council. We're at a time in this country where we've never been, with a pandemic and a circumstance right now where people are fearful. They don't know if they can leave their house. They don't know if they can go to the store. They don't know if they can shake hands. And in that time where information is critical, we have 8,000 members of this city who don't have their elected representative voice sitting at the city council to be able to provide them with that information, to be able to voice their concerns. And I'm here to make sure that changes. Now, I will say I'm having a conversation next week with the city attorney, hopefully to remedy the circumstances that are currently existing. And this is not necessarily an Eric Mays issue. Eric Mays has other issues that I'll be getting involved with too. And I'll promise you that. And I don't make promises I don't fulfill. But the issue I'm here for today is not necessarily an Eric Mays issue. It's an issue for 8,000 folks who elected Eric Mays to be their voice. And they are being deprived constitutionally of that voice. So if anyone has any questions, I would open it up.
Just give me 1 second, please.
What about the Murdoch case? Can you comment on that?
You know, I've talked to Eric about getting involved in the Murdoch case. Based on the information I have, I believe he has a cause of action for what occurred. I've talked to Eric about retaining me in that cause of action. And after my drive down here today, that retainer fee is going to be 4 new tires for my car for all the potholes. But I would stand next to Eric Mays in any litigation. And, you know, Eric Mays has done great things for the city of Flint. And I know he's a polarizing figure. I know. I know some people don't like Eric. They don't like his delivery. They don't like his message that he may be providing. Political discourse is what makes this country great. And we can have differences of opinion. But we shouldn't have people threatening people, pointing to their chest saying, I got a gun, slapping people around in bars, telling people I'm coming from the streets. They can threaten Eric Mays that way. I'm not going to take those threats well. I'll tell you that right now. And if I got to hail those individuals into the appropriate legal forum, let the heavy hand of the law deal with them, we will do that. And that's, again, what I'm here for today on behalf of my friend and my client, Eric Mays.
And what's to come? Will there be lawsuits?
I mean, hopefully no. I mean, hopefully there can be just some reasonable conversation, and the childish and immature games that are embarrassing the city can stop. This is all politically motivated, right? There's things that are going on that shouldn't be going on. And Eric Mays, for the sake of the 8,000 folks he represents, he needs to be back sitting at that city council.
Does the residents of this ward have class action capability, because they have been denied, in your opinion?
In my legal opinion, as a constitutional attorney, I believe they do. I believe their constitutional rights are being deprived by and through what is an improper, illegal action by the city council. The city council, in my review of the charter, and I'm not on a Saturday morning going to go over the charter and bore anybody, but I am licensed, that's what I do, to review laws and see if they're arbitrary, see if they're vague, see if they're ambiguous, and see if proper procedure was followed when you deprive somebody of a constitutional right. And I don't believe in this circumstance that was followed based on my read of the charter. And again, the charter the city council does not own the charter. That charter is owned by the people of the city of Flint. And it is being live TV.
Go ahead.
It is being applied, in my interpretation, unconstitutionally, and is impacting more people than Eric Mays. This is not necessarily an Eric Mays issue, though politically people want to make it an Eric Mays issue. Politically, people are taking an Eric Mays issue, and what they're doing is they're affecting 8,000 other folks in the same time, and that is not appropriate and is not legally based in sound analysis, in my opinion.
Mr. Mays, may I ask you a couple questions? Are you paying for the legal fees?
I can answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Right? That's an attorney-client privilege conversation, but I'm going to answer it for you anyway. I'm going to waive his privilege. He hasn't paid me a penny to come down here.
Okay.
Right? I don't get out of bed on a Saturday morning. I've made a lot of money. I don't get out of bed on a Saturday morning. I did 15 years ago to make money. I'm down here for these people.
Okay.
And they'll never pay me a penny.
Thank you. Mr. Mays, could you introduce everybody that's up there?
I'm Wilbur Papa Jared. I introduced myself.
Thank you.
And 40% of these city ordinances and rules and council rules and all that wouldn't stand constitutional muster. Because under the present rule, 5 city council people could get together and throw all the other 4 off the council under these rules. And that's unconstitutional. But just like the attorney said earlier this morning, a constitutional fight is very expensive, and you got very few lawyers that will get involved in it. But what needs to happen, that city charter needs to be challenged constitutionally, because it's unconstitutional. And it's got many, 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 many phases of that Constitution that infringes on not only the people's right, but the elected officials' right.
Let me say this. The council rules as they're written now has a procedure for changing and amending them. And it's called the rulemaking procedure. Section 1-801 of the charter is the rulemaking procedure. In our council rules, it says if you're going to change or amend, and I believe that includes the punishment. Our rules only allow for a 1-day removal, not a 30-day. And if you're going to change it to 30 days, then you must go through a process of Section 1-801 says that you give a 2-week notice, you post a 2-week notice, you then conduct a public hearing, council debate and vote, and then the rule don't come into effect until after the clerk publishes it. This rule was just made up on a simple motion, and I don't know where they think that the charter or the rules give them that authority.
Well, I do have a question, attorney. You've had cases in federal court. What was one of your landmark cases in the federal court? We had questions on Facebook.
Yes. I was the lead counsel in the largest trial in the history of college sports. HBO is doing a documentary on it. It arguably is the largest trial in the history of sports, period, criminal trial, where I represented Christian Dawkins out of Saginaw, Michigan, in the college basketball bribery scandal. I was lead counsel in the Southern District of New York for 2 months. And I've had also, my firm and myself as lead counsel has litigated millions of dollars successfully in civil rights cases, where we saw money damages against municipalities, police departments, and other civil rights matters. 50% of my firm is devoted to civil rights litigation, and another 50% is primarily focused on federal and higher profile criminal matters. I will say that in federal civil rights litigation, you go into those cases expecting no money. And I go into those cases investing my money into people I believe in. If I don't believe in you, I'm not going to waste my time and money on you, right? I believe in Eric Mays. I believe in the members of the First Ward, who I will be meeting with. And I will invest whatever amount of money I need to protect their constitutional rights and fight their battles.
And this is Ms. Banks, First Ward resident. There's Johnny Billings, First Ward resident. This is my friend Bob Carmack, who I met Attorney Haney through, but we've got some mutual friends. As everybody know, Magic Johnson was here during the Holiday of Hope, here himself up at Northwestern, and then I worked with his brother Larry Johnson for the last 3 years. So the Johnson, Bob Carmack, myself, and others with Attorney Haney has become close friends, close relations, both personally and professionally.
Everyone is a First Ward except for Mr. Haney?
And Mr. Carmack.
And Mr. Jarrett.
Okay, Mr. Carmack, where are you from?
I'm from Woodhaven, Michigan.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
He brought James Heath here during the water crisis.
During the Flint crisis.
We met through the water crisis. Mr. Carmack took a great interest in the city of Flint. He brought Mr. James Heath, and he couldn't get to the authorities to introduce Heath. Heath is a person who had many years knowing the infrastructure from Detroit to Flint. And he was a great help to me, and me and Mr. Carmack had to literally fight. It took us a year to introduce him to some people. And so he eventually was able to give a little help before Mr. Heath got a little sick. But that's how we became close, because we were fighting together in the infant stages of the water crisis.
Attorney, I got a question, and this is relevant, keeping up with the at hand. On the Facebook, they ask that if, when you meet with the city attorney on Monday, and seeing that the city attorney works for the council, supposed to work for the council, when you can't get any headway, when will you file, or what court will you file in? How long will it take, or just what that process would be? If all goes south on Monday.
I understand, and I've had conversation with Angela Wheeler. I think she's a tremendously talented lawyer. Not that she needs my endorsement, or I don't need to sign off on her. I think she's a good lawyer, and she's opened the door to have conversation. She doesn't work for the council, but I think her obligations are to provide them with good counsel, good legal counsel, and explain to them what the consequences may be if they don't do the right thing. And I'm not here to threaten or grandstand. That's not what this is about. And I hope that Angela Wheeler and I have positive conversation on Monday, and that we can get Mr. Mays back where he belongs, which is sitting in his council seat representing these folks who elected him.
Okay, and if that happens,
if
he's in his council seat,
yes.
Well, what's going to happen at the next council meeting when he point of order or this or that, and they do some type of egregious, or just say, well, you got we're removing you from this meeting. Well, I mean, is it going to continue?
Fair question, but I would believe that based on what we're assuring them we're going to do, they may think twice about doing that, and they may next time follow the rules and procedures and provide the due process that has afforded not just Mr. Mays but the city's residents in the First Ward. We can't predict what would happen in the future, but I would be disappointed, and I think it would be very bad for them. Then it would show a pattern of behavior, right? Now it wouldn't just show that it was, a one-time lapse in proper protocol, but it would show now maybe something that was a little more intentional and targeted towards somebody politically. And that could pose, I think, greater problems for them through the legal process. This wouldn't be a kind of case. I've had civil rights cases that have dragged on 3 or 4 years before we had a resolution. Right? I sued the city of Hamtramck and Highland Park and had a very, very, very big award out of those 2 municipalities on behalf of some clients that were unconstitutionally searched and seized. This wouldn't be that kind of a case. This would be a case where we'd be seeking injunctive relief to get an order from a federal judge ordering the council to do what they're supposed to do. And we're not asking for any favors. We're not asking for any special treatment. We want Mays treated the same way as any of those other council would expect to be treated in a similar circumstance.
So by going to federal court, are you saying that this is a civil rights violation?
I believe it is. I think their procedural due process and constitutional rights have been violated. I have counsel I will sit with after Monday, right? Like you do with any other fight, right? You try to work things out, and if you can't work it out, then you put your army together. And that's what we'll do. We'll put our team together and we'll get our war strategy, and that's what we'll do. We'll move forward and do what we feel we need to do for not only Councilman Mays, but for his constituents.
Now, the council says they're acting within their rights to, I guess, to punish someone for misconduct. They said it's not a violation of the charter. So what is the argument here? How do you plan to fight this?
Well, I mean, the argument is clear. I mean, the charter is very ambiguous. There's no language in there that would afford any of that. I don't see the words 30-day ban provided in that charter. That language doesn't exist in the charter. All right, and it doesn't exist in the rules either. And again, that charter is for the people of Flint. So I don't know what authority they're relying upon. And regrettably, that's why you litigate cases. You're in court arguing over the interpretation of statutes and laws and whether it's ambiguous, whether it's being applied in an unfair way to a particular citizen. That's why you have federal court litigation. Now, I don't think the city of Flint wants that. I don't think Councilman Mays wants that, or his constituents. Yeah. We have bigger problems going on right now in this country than all this little bickering, infighting, all this childishness that's going on with these people. People calling each other names, people threatening people, people saying, "Well, I got a gun and I'm from the streets." People slapping people in the face in bars. Well, this is an embarrassment to the city of Flint. I live up in Lansing. I have a long history here in Flint. I know a lot of people from Flint. I played basketball against Flint Central when I was at Lansing Everett High School. We had a home and home, right? We were the number 2 team in the state of Michigan. Flint Central was number 1. We had some wars down here, but we loved Flint, right? We came from Everett High School. We respected the city of Flint. It was a great city. So I look at this personally as an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment that the leaders of this city are engaged in all this childishness. Right. This man's a senior citizen. And you got people talking about kicking his ass and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. There's no place for that in society. There's no place for that on the playground with a bunch of 9-year-olds.
So what are you hoping to accomplish with your conversation with the city attorney?
I'm laser focused, and that's how I am. It's Saturday morning, I'm done. I got a lot of better things I could be doing. Not better, but a lot of other things I could be doing. I'm here for him and these people. What we want to accomplish on Monday is to have him back where he belongs, which is sitting there, acting as he should, voicing whatever he feels he needs to voice on behalf of his constituents in a proper manner, right? We all are works in progress. I don't care how old you are. You could be 5, you could be 65. We all have things we need to work on, right? Mr. Mays does too. I do. Everyone does. But taking him and removing him from that seat is affecting 8,000 people in a time right now where we can't have that. And that's all we're trying to accomplish. Not trying to threaten or bully or push our way back into the seat. He should be there because he belongs there. He was elected to be there.
So if he gets back in the seat, will there still be lawsuits to follow?
No, not involved in this particular matter.
In regards to what then, though?
And whatever happened at that bar, at Rube's, that has nothing to do with this.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing, if somebody smacked Eric Mays around over at Rube's, right, and made fun of him, and mocked him, and if there's evidence to prove that, as sure as I'm standing here, they're going to pay for that. So trust that. So that's a whole nother issue.
You want to sue Duval Murdoch?
That's a whole nother issue, and I'm going to look at the facts of that case. I'm going to talk to some more people. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but I can promise you, if Mr. Murdoch slapped my client in the face at 65 years old,
62.
Sorry about that, 62 years old, and mocked him, and made fun of him, and ridiculed him, right, and stepped all over all the great things he's been doing for the city for all those years, I can promise you I will go after him. I can promise you. Now, if my review of that case doesn't prove to be something that I can establish in a court of law, then I won't, right? But I'm not there yet. But I'm looking at that, and that's another issue.
I got a question. The council really put Eric out on the word censor. Now, according to the definition, me and Eric looked it up, censor does not mean remove.
Yeah, you got two words. You got censor, C-E-N-S-O-R, and then you got censure, C-E-N-S-U-R-E. Censure is specific as to no removal. We don't know which one they're talking about at this point, but neither one of them is a removal. And then what's the beauty of our meetings, they're video recorded. Attorney Haney will be able to look at the videos. He'll be hearing me say point of order, point of order. That means all stopping should cease. Even the talking of remove him in the middle of a point of order. So the beauty of all of these, I'm calling them unlawful removals, are videoed. And so now I've got somebody here who can review the videos in detail. The videos are there for everybody to see. The rules are wrote in stone. They have not been changed or amended, and the rules matches with the charter. And in my opinion, the 30-day removal is just wrong.
Councilman, the morning that you were in the hospital after the bar incident, we had a report on a radio show, and someone called afterward and said that they had seen the video and that I should have said you got your ass kicked and that you didn't even swing a punch. What happened to that video? Have they found that video? Because I talked to the former owner of the bar who said he had a very sophisticated video, and if it disappeared, that the hard drive, as I understand it, would have captured that video. Has the police gone back to check that machine to see if that video is there?
Well, Detective Reese, who was the investigator, nice guy, he has turned his investigation over to Prosecutor Layden's office. And I'm here to tell you, after he talked to everybody and after he put his best foot forward, his information to me is he can't find or there's no video footage.
What about the press release that the mayor put out saying you're an embarrassment to the city, saying that his employee, the deputy chief of staff, was defending himself? Are those, I guess for Mr. Haney, are those items that he can sue on?
I mean, at this point, we don't know. We'll need to speak to more people who were there that night. Right now, you have two different sides of the story, right? You have Eric May's side of the story. You have Morick's side of the story. I'm sure there are other people there who saw what occurred. We'll need to talk to those people and determine whether or not there's a cause of action, and that's kind of where we are with that.
Let me ask it this way. If you were the city attorney, would you have advised the mayor to be able to send out a libelous statement like that?
I mean, certainly I don't know why the mayor would be commenting on something of that nature. I certainly would not advise the mayor to comment on something like that. You know, irrespective of what actually occurred that night, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have happened, right? My client's 62 years old, right? He's in a bar. And I know Councilman Mays, he's not a violent man. He doesn't have a history of being a violent man. He doesn't have a criminal record of being violent. You know, so I'm gonna look a little closer at that situation. Anything else?
Councilman Mays, if you could tell me, what are you hoping to accomplish here with Attorney Haney on your team?
Well, I'm hoping to get credibility back. I think it's been an embarrassment to me and to the people I represent, Ms. Banks and others. We've got 7 good block clubs here. I met with one yesterday. And so right now I'm embarrassed, and it's kind of frustrating and humiliating. And so sometime when people don't listen to you about due process, when they don't listen to you about equal protection, when they don't listen to you about discrimination, in other words, they apply the rules differently to me. And we have plenty of video meetings and can prove that. We can show how others have acted who might not look like me and talk like me in violation of the rules. and we have video of the incidents when I was wrongfully removed, in my opinion. And this has been going on for months. And when you can't rationalize and communicate and get justice or equal treatment, then you turn to somebody who has a reputation and who has the legal knowledge to help you do that. I'm not too proud to step back and let somebody speak for me. And in this case, in these cases, it will be Attorney Steve Haney.
Your colleague said that the center, whatever they want to call it, was there to bring in your behavior, and they referred to you as like a child, you know, to bring in your behavior. To, you know, you get to council meetings, we don't want you. That's what they said. So I don't know if you want to address that, to ring you in, to bring in your behavior.
Well, I'm hoping that Mr. Attorney Haney can reel in their behavior. What I mean by that is this. I want the different treatment to stop. I want the violation of the rules to stop. I want point of orders to be recognized just like they are for everybody else, just like our rules dictate. As a matter of fact, our rules say when the chair does not recognize a point of order, or when the chair is out of order, that chair shall be removed. None of that is happening. So when you get so bogged down in mess, you got to try to fix it. In most cases, I can show you by video that I reacts to them. Now, if Mr. Haney, Attorney Haney, can come in and get things back on track, then I can assure you I'll not have to react. And that's what we're hoping. I don't want to have to react to people calling me a racist, a misogynist, obtuse, narcissistic. It's against our rules, personal attacks. We should be there for the people's business. We should be concentrating on budgets. We should be concentrating on, if we need to change or amend rules, change and amend them. And we should be doing the business of the city. Right now, it's an emergency been declared. I need to be in that pipeline. I'm not hearing from nobody. I'm not in touch. We don't even have all of the department heads' phone numbers. It's about the city business, because when I get calls from residents, I gotta be able to connect and concentrate on their concerns, whether it's blight and trash, whether it's a pothole, whether it's a street light out, whether it's a police call at 2, 3 in the morning. This is an awkward position to be in when you have people relying on it, from block clubs to individuals. I get calls from these other council people's ward. So this has got so serious that I've called upon a friend and a professional, and I appreciate the support that has come to me, and I'm gonna rely on Attorney Haney to try to help me fix some things.
And I think Eric makes an excellent point. Just notwithstanding the pandemic,
Right.
just the general day-to-day business in the city of Flint, with other issues, the budget and all the other issues that are ever occurring in the city, you now have a circumstance we're in a national state of emergency, right? People don't know if they can go out of their house. They don't know if they can go to the grocery store. They don't know if they can find toilet paper. And now they have the voice, their voice, the one who's supposed to disseminate that information, that critical information they need. They're calling him. He doesn't know, because he's not on the council.
What are the residents supposed to do now? He's not on the council. Well, his elected office has been vacated. What if they have a problem in the first ward? What do you suggest the resident to do, Attorney Haney?
That would be an answer for the council.
Call me anyway, 810-922-4860. Call me anyway.
And hopefully Monday, we can get this back on track. And as Councilman May said, this is often, it's a reaction, not an action that he's engaged in. I've watched some of the video. I've seen some of the stuff that goes on. I've seen his overreaction at times. I have. I love him. But I've seen how he's reacted sometimes. However, if there wasn't the action that he didn't have to react to because of all his immaturity and childishness, name calling, then he wouldn't be in the position often that he's in. And that's really part of the problem here. Get this back on track, as Mr. Mays said. Put it back on the track so everybody can get along, right? Everybody can resume their business, and he can represent the folks that elected him, right? He didn't appoint himself as the councilman of the first ward. He got elected by 8,000 people. And he needs to be back there so he can properly represent those folks.
Well, Mr. Mays, this is my last question. You said this is politically motivated. And I think we need to find out, at least I want to know, what do you mean by it's what's happening to you on this Flint City Council is politically motivated. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm going to show Attorney Haney a film of a meeting that's dated January 23rd, 2019. When I walked in, simply tried to call the Finance Committee meeting to order and was removed, in my opinion, illegally for simply trying to call a meeting to order. And then after I was removed with force by police, then they voted to remove me after the fact. That's a key example of January 23rd, 2019. It'll hook in with this. They're removing me, in my opinion, illegally because about 5 of the council people are new. And they're being used politically, in my opinion, by the mayor and by other council people because I was in the middle of a subpoena to subpoena John Gleason and the mayor for unlawfully interfering with the election and affecting the outcome. January 23rd, I had subpoenas issued from my chairmanship to subpoena Governor Snyder, Rich Baird, and Amy Epke to show where $400 million had went. It's kind of more than a coincidence to me that each time I'm in a chairmanship, and I'm subpoenaing people to do an investigation that the people want to know about, I'm unfortunately wrongfully removed. And this pattern of the business that I'm into on behalf of the people coincides with these unlawful removals, and so it's politically motivated. If I've got a political position, or if I have political rights, if you look at the preamble of the charter, you can't discriminate for political orientation or ideology. I don't have to have the same political ideology as my colleagues. You'll see video where I just can say somebody's name and they cut me off before they even hear my whole sentence. So the politics is a little much, but we can fix it by using the law. You can't discriminate and apply the rules differently. You can't give me, we've got equal protection, and you've got due process procedures and enacting punitive laws, such as this one. I don't even know if you can remove me. What would keep them from removing me for 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years? So I've got to turn to an expert.
And I think the take-home point to wrap it up, this is arbitrary, it's capricious, it's vague, it's ambiguous, it's a bunch of legal terms that aren't defined. And as the councilman said, why did they stop at 30? Why didn't they just say 90? Right? Why didn't they say 120? There was no reason for 30. So that's the problem. When there's no clarity and there's no process followed, then that's a violation of somebody's constitutional rights. As he said, equal protection, due process, a number of other rights that he's afforded under the Constitution. And then on top of that, you make this into an issue of that constitutional deprivation of the violation of the procedural due process. It just impacted 8,000 people in the worst crisis maybe we've ever seen in the country, right? We've never seen anything like this. I'm 53 years old. I've never borne witness to anything like this in America. And I was a little suspicious a week and a half ago about the whole thing, the whole pandemic. But it's real. And we have people that are being affected now who don't have information because of this illegal, unconstitutional action by the council. That's a problem. It should be a problem for more than just the residents of the first ward. That should be a problem for the whole city of Flint. The whole state of Michigan, the whole country should have a problem with that.
Eric, they called an emergency yesterday, and there were a lot of questions they couldn't answer. One question that came up yesterday, we reported that there is a case at Hurley that tested positive. In Oakland County, we had 2 people that tested positive, and they put out a list of every single place that these people have been to. Why hasn't that happened in Flint? If there's a case at Hurley, I'd like to know everywhere that person has been, so I know whether or not people need to be quarantined. Don't you think it's a responsibility of elected officials to safeguard the public? That's information we should know.
Well, I know when we declared the water emergency, I was in touch with the mayor and her administration, Mayor Weaver. This declaration, leading up to the declaration, I was in touch with the former mayor. After the declaration, I have not heard nothing. So even though they say this action banned me from meetings, it seems like it's doing a little more than that as it relates to communications and flow of information outside of a meeting. And so it concerns me. It concerns me when I spoke at the block club meeting yesterday. We got 6 or 7 good block clubs. It concerns me when my phone keeps ringing. Right now, we are not in a position, and we're not in that position wrongfully, to communicate effectively during this emergency.
Eric, you mentioned almost $400 million. I think it was $386 million that the state says N/A. They won't even tell us where it went. Did it come to Flint?
Well, the 400 and something million that you're referring to came to the Flint area in some cases. We see some money went to the YMCA in Lansing. And I don't know what that had to do with the water crisis, but that was another illegal removal and a quashing of a subpoena when it came to Rich Baird, Amy Epke, who was the fiduciary of the money, and Governor Snyder. I was fixing to show in an open meeting as chairman of finance till I was wrongfully removed where every dime had went. And so the more they keep jerking me out of my position, in my opinion, wrongfully, and a different treatment than other council persons who violate the rules, it quashes the movement. And so I can give you a sheet of where the money allegedly went, but some of the money is undocumented. I wanted to do that in an open hearing, and we had the subpoena issued. And then I was pulled out wrongfully again. All of this stuff will tie together. And Attorney Haney, I want you to know that the Murdoch thing ties together, because after I was removed in that meeting, the video would show one of my colleagues saying, he'll do me worse than Mr. Murdoch. And so it's concerning to me. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you. I was praying and holding my breath. And so thank you so much.
Eric questioned if I would show up today. I don't know why.
One more question. Do the other council members interact with you now, or are they barred from?
Mr. Winfrey called me. I have talked to Mr. Herb Winfrey, who voted in disagreement. He dissented. He was a different vote. He told me to look up the word censure. I say, you spell it C-E-N-S-O-R. He said, you could also spell it C-E-N-S-U-R, censure and censor. Censor is to stop somebody from saying something. I've seen one definition. Right. And censure is to written reprimand them or punish them publicly after they said something, and it's specific to no removal. So you have to ask the other council persons what they believe. I've only talked to one, Mr. Winfrey, who cautioned them on the record, Attorney Haney, that they might not want to do this.
Eric, a final question. There's a lot of legal experts on Facebook, and one theory is that the 7 people who removed you committed misconduct of office by wrongfully removing you. If any citizen brings a complaint to the council for removal and they vote it down, the appeal process, as they're saying, would be to the circuit court, and a judge would say yes or no, they committed malpractice or misconduct of office. If they did, all 7 of them would be removed. Is that something you've looked at? Or Attorney Haney, have you looked at that?
Yeah, we've had conversation about that too, and that's obviously taking it in a whole nother direction. Hopefully we can avoid all of that we don't wanna disrupt the whole city's operations by kicking off the whole council. We already kicked off one of them.
Wrongfully, in my opinion.
Right, so we wanna make sure, hopefully Monday, we can avoid, you know, bringing the whole city to its knees and throwing the political, you know, system into the river, so we don't want that to happen.
Hopefully we'll forgive them.
Well, they know nothing.
Thanks a lot.
No, they knew what they was doing.
Oh,
All right. Thank you. I'm gonna shake your hand, don't worry about it.
Well, you've been listening to a live broadcast at Hassel Green Community